Today I'm doing the Febregency Tag. Welcome back to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. I feel like a little bit of an imposter doing this tag because I haven't really taken part in Febregency this month. I have read a few Regency poems, and I am planning on reading a few more before the end of the month, but that's probably the extent of my Febregency reading this year. I was hoping to get to at least one book that would have counted that was part of my British literature course, but I am not quite there yet. And I thought about reading the group read, but I didn't own it, and I just knew that I wasn't going to get to it with all the other books I was reading this month for the other readathon that I'm doing. I was tagged by Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia to do this tag, and I just think it's a really fun tag, so I decided to do it anyway. And hopefully reading the poetry is going to count. This tag was created for the Febregency Readathon by Christy at Christy Lewis Dostoevsky in Space, Emma at A Bookish Princess, Miss Richards Reads, and Tristan in the Classics. The first prompt is to name your top 3 Regency authors. I didn't realize until I was trying to answer this that I actually don't read very widely in the Regency era. So obviously Jane Austen would be the #1 answer here. Whoopsie, that book is upside down and backwards. And Northanger Abbey and Sense and Sensibility are my favorite Jane Austen books. But other than Jane Austen, I don't have anybody else that I've read multiple books from in this era. I could say E.T.A. Hoffman because of The Nutcracker, and Mary Shelley because of Frankenstein, because I do love Frankenstein. But there are a few Regency authors that I really want to get to, but I haven't read yet. I really want to read some books by Walter Scott, but I haven't read those yet. And I have 2 books on my shelf. Those are the ones I was hoping to get to with my literature course by Fanny Burney. So hopefully this year I will be able to read a little bit more by Regency authors. #2 is my top 3 Regency poets. This was a lot easier because there are more than 3 poets that I like from this era. My favorite British poet is William Wordsworth. One of my probably core memories of my life is when my mom and I went to Grasmere and we got the famous gingerbread, and we went into the cemetery and we went and sat next to Wordsworth's family graves, and we were just surrounded by yellow daffodils. And so I sat and I was talking about his daffodil poetry. That is a memory I will never forget. And then right after that, we went to his house and toured that. And I bought the book. And I also love Coleridge. So I really love the lyrical ballads book of poetry of Wordsworth and Coleridge. For the third poet, I would probably have to pick Lord Byron. He's not my favorite person, but I do love his poetry. #3 is favorite historical event that happened during this time period. So I actually looked up a list of things that happened during that time period because I knew some of the things, but I wouldn't consider them a favorite thing that happened. And so I just wasn't sure what to pick. And then I saw that in 1812, that is when the Brothers Grimm published their fairy tale collection. And so I decided to go with that because while I don't always love the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, they are pretty dark. I do really enjoy fairy tales, and I love retellings of fairy tales. So I decided that since a lot of the stories that I love come from that I would have to go with that. #4. The year is 1816. It's a dark and stormy night on Lake Geneva. You're telling ghost stories with 3 legendary writers. Who are they? And you get bonus points if they're Regency, but mine are not going to be Regency. Immediately I thought, okay, I would want it to be Lucy Maud Montgomery, because not only was she good at writing, a little bit of spooky things into some of her stories, but she's my favorite author. I would love to have been able to meet her. But then I was having a hard time narrowing down the other 2. So then I decided that for this particular prompt, I would actually not pick Lucy Maud Montgomery, and I would pick the 3 Bronte sisters. I would like to have Charlotte, Emily, and Anne with me because I would love to see how they interacted with each other. Because I would imagine if you're sitting there telling ghost stories, they would probably be building off of each other and throwing out ideas, and they would be so familiar with each other and each other's minds and the way they each wrote and worked. It would be a really interesting dynamic to be a part of. #5. The Regency era is named after the Regency of George, Prince of Wales, who ruled in the stead of his father, King George III, from 1811 to 1820. If you had to appoint a regent to rule your booktube channel in your stead, who would it be? This was a hard one too, but I have to go with someone who does not have a booktube channel and would have a hard time actually doing it. But I was trying to think of who I have the most in common with. I've talked about her a lot on this channel. That would be my mom. My mom and I have a lot in common. We like a lot of the same things. We travel together a lot because we want to go to the same places. And when we are in those places, we have the similar interests of where we want to go and what we want to do. And we never run out of things to talk about. All of our likes and dislikes and interests are not exactly the same, but we have so many in common that I think that she would run my booktube channel very closely to what I do. But the other answer to that would be my daughter, my oldest daughter. If you took my oldest daughter and my mom and put them together and they worked together, you would probably get most of the books that I like. And my daughter would be able to do the technical side of the YouTube channel. So I think it would have to be my mom helped by my daughter. Number 6, much literature of the Regency period is categorized as romantic. What word would you use to describe today's literature? I thought a lot about this question. This might sound a little too negative. For me, looking around today at what's being published, what came to my mind was shallow with an illusion of depth. The reason I don't read a lot of new fiction is because I feel like every category of book, even children's books, even picture books, and even some Christian books are being consumed by modern ideas that I don't think are appropriate for every age group or every kind of book. They have way more swear words than they need to have. I feel like books have become more gory in their violence and their scariness. I feel like there's way too much sexuality. It feels like they're more about shock value than they are about storytelling. So maybe that's another phrase I could use for modern books is shock value. Number 7, Shakespeare's plays were popular during the Regency. What artistic performance have you recently enjoyed? Last November, my mom and I went to For King and Country's Christmas concert. That was the only real live performance I've seen in years. My husband and I, we try to do date night every weekend, but we stay home. We get food or he makes and we watch a movie together. And we just finished going through all of the Indiana Jones movies. That was really fun because I love Indiana Jones. And as a family, we've been watching the old Mission Impossible TV show. My husband and I have watched the whole thing through together before. And now we're watching it with our daughters because our oldest daughter especially likes it. Number 8, the Regency period was characterized by high fashion. What is a current fashion or trend in the book community that you adore or detest? I wouldn't say that there's anything I detest because I feel like everybody should be able to make the kind of content they want to make. And if I don't like it, I don't have to watch it. Back when I first discovered booktube, there were quite a few booktubers that were talking about the same books all the time. And I went out and I bought those books because I'm like, oh, these must be great because everybody's talking about them. And then they weren't very good. And then I found out that they weren't even reading them. They're getting them free from the publishers. They're telling you about them, but they're never reading them. And so that kind of annoyed me because I thought, oh, I just was duped. I was the guinea pig, the person that that the publishers are expecting, that they're counting on to watch these videos and go out and buy the book. And that was when I learned not to buy a book just because it was hype. As far as things I love that I have found so many people on booktube that since I started that read similarly to me or read books that I want to read. People that I watch their videos and I think I want to be more like them in my reading life. I want to make sure I'm making time for those kind of books that I've never heard of. And I also really love how it seems like there's a lot of readathons now. I love doing readathons. I think it's because I'm a box checker. I love checking off boxes and I love making plans. While I always do leave room for mood reading, I know that there are times when I am feeling lazy or I'm worn out from a day of homeschooling or something like that. If I have a list of books I'm trying to get through and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to finish these books before the end of the month and I really want to hit that goal that I have for this readathon, I am much more likely to pick up a book and read rather than doing something else that's not going to be as rewarding as reading the book would be. Number 9, Jane Austen's novels show us the importance of etiquette in the drawing rooms of Regency England. Tell us about your personal rating system. I think I said on a video earlier that I wasn't going to talk about books and my wrap-ups on here with the star rating I give them anymore because I kind of just want to talk about what I like about them, what I don't like about them, and leave it at that. But I do use star ratings on Goodreads and Storygraph and in my personal reading journal. So for me, I am pretty stingy with my 5 stars. I didn't used to be. So if you were following me on Goodreads and you went to look at all my 5-star ratings, there would actually be a lot of books listed that I would not give anywhere near that now. But now I am stingier with them a little bit. And I tend to only give a book 5 stars if it's either life-changing or it is so good that I can't think of anything that I would change about it. The one other reason is that it is such a fun experience to read it that I feel like it deserves that 5 star. Usually, if I really love a book, but it isn't perfect, like it's not the best book I've ever read, it will usually end up being in the like 4.5 star. So a 4 star is a book that I really, really love. Those are usually books that I would consider favorites and that I will read again. So just the higher above 4 that it is, the better I liked it. So then when you get from the 3 to 4 range, a 3 is a book that I liked, I didn't love, it's not my favorite, I probably will read it again. If it's a 3, I might even get rid of it. But a lot of times if it's a 3, I'll keep it because it's kind of this may not have been the right time for this book, or I might not love it, but somebody else in my family will. So usually anything that I give 3 and above, I usually keep, unless I just think, well, it was good, I didn't hate it, but I will never read it again, then I'll get rid of it. I don't keep any books that I don't think I'll read again. If a book gets a 2 star, that means I hated it. I did not like it, but I don't think it's the worst book ever. If it gets 1 star, that's usually going to be a book that I gave up on partway through only because I hated it so much. Or I finished the whole thing and I just can't find anything good about it. And so I don't give out 1 stars very often either. So that's how I rate books. The next question is to tag somebody, but I feel like it's so close to the end of the month that I don't know if there's anybody that would want to do this that would have time to do it before the end of the month. And I know that a lot of people have already done it. So I'm going to just do the easy thing here and say, if you're watching this and you want to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged and then let me know if you do it. Let me know if you have taken part in Febregency and if you have, what you've read and what you've enjoyed the most. If you have any recommendations of your favorite Regency poet or book that I didn't mention that I should read, or if you've read Walter Scott, what is your favorite book by him? Because like I said, I do want to read something by him, and I figured it would be Ivanhoe that I would read first, but if there's something else that you think is better, let me know.